Hey bees, I'm Marie from Humblebee and Me, and today we are continuing the vanilla spice Christmas DIY theme I've got going on here this season with some gorgeous vanilla spice body butter bars. Body butter bars are super simple to make and they make awesome gifts. They're really just kind of melt and stir and pour. Something that you will want to keep in mind is gifting them. I would recommend gifting them in a jar or a tin with a wide mouth so that the bar can go in and out, so that the recipient has somewhere to store it between uses, because these are formulated to melt readily on the skin. And so if you sort of just leave them lying about, I find that they can get a little soft, especially if you live somewhere warmer, and then they can start to pick up a bunch of hair and lint and whatnot, and it's not that nice. So make sure that when you choose your mold, you know that the shape that the bar will fit in whatever jars or tins you intend to gift them in. The size of batch we're making today is 50 grams, and you'll notice there's a couple half-gram measurements, but conveniently, if you double the size, you will have a 100-gram batch with all full-gram measurements, and if you change the G to a percent sign, now you have percents, and so then you can sort of scale the batch as you please. 50 grams makes about one muffin-sized bar minus the top, like one muffin butt-sized bar. But of course, the yield of this in terms of number of bars is completely defined by the size of mold that you use. So you could do tiny ones in like a teensy little little chocolate mold or something like that, or you can do bigger ones if you want. It's completely up to you. So kind of just remember that obviously the gram stays the same, but the number of bars you get is completely dependent on the size of mold that you use. The ingredients list for these bars is pretty short. And as with most ingredient lists that are quite short, it's pretty important that you don't sort of faff around with things. There is a liquid oil, and you are certainly free to choose a different liquid oil than the one that I have used, but I would really, really recommend not touching the beeswax and the cocoa butter and the cetyl alcohol. Now, I do have a shorter version of this recipe that is cetyl alcohol free that has quite different ratios, and that is on the blog. So if you just click through to the blog and scroll down to the bottom, there's a big list of substitutions information, and I do this like all the time. So if you are ever watching one of my videos and you're like, I wonder what I can substitute for, like go down to the description box and click on the link and go to the blog, because it's probably already written out there for you, or it'll just say, please no, absolutely not, 100% don't do this, not recommended, because I get reasonably good at anticipating the sorts of things people often want to do with my recipes. So don't faff around with this too much, please, because it's all sort of very carefully balanced. All right, let's go make some vanilla body butter bars. We'll begin by combining our heated ingredients in a heat-resistant glass measuring cup, and this is a 1 cup Pyrex glass measuring cup, and it's vintage and very cute and tiny. So we're going to need 16.5 grams of cocoa butter, 13.5 grams of rice bran oil, 4.5 grams of cetyl alcohol, and 15 grams of beeswax. To melt everything together, we're going to pop our measuring cup in a water bath. So this is just a small flat bottom saucepan that's got about 1 inch or 3 centimeters of water in the bottom of it, and a little silicone trivet to protect the measuring cup and to keep it from bouncing around too much. And I'm going to go pop this on the stovetop over medium heat for about half an hour to melt everything through. Been about half an hour, everything has melted through. Remember that the beeswax is going to be the limiting factor for how quickly your bar melts. So if you have huge chunks of beeswax, it's going to take quite a while to melt. So we got to work quickly here. So we're going to add a bit of mica. So this is a mica from TKB Training called Virgo, which is just a lovely sort of antiqued bronze color that I absolutely adore. And so we're adding 1/32 of a teaspoon, and that's just for the bar to have color. As a bar, it won't show up on your skin. It bleed maybe just a teensy hint of shimmer, but this is really just a on the bar kind of thing. And you can see it's very lovely, and you can use any kind of bronze or gold, any sort of color that you associate with vanilla, or nothing, optional. And now for our essential oils. So we're going to do sort of 2 blobs of benzoin. Be sure to check the description box below for sort of the corresponding weights for these amounts, but of course keep in mind that they're quite small weights, so if you don't have quite an accurate scale, they won't really work for you, which is why I provide it in drops as well. 2 drops of cinnamon and 1 drop each of clove and nutmeg. And now we're going to pop that in our mold. So I have a silicone muffin, I guess you can't really call it a tin here, muffin thing. You can see that this amount fills just one muffin cup perfectly. So we're going to leave that to set up. So it's been about half an hour, and you can see that it's set up because it's starting to pull away from the edges here. So we can pop this out of the mold pretty easily. And that's that there. You definitely don't want to handle it any more than you have to because it's designed to melt at body temperature. So as soon as you start to handle it, it's going to start to soften and melt pretty quickly. We can kind of see that fairly easily here as I run my finger over this area. You know, I don't melt it completely, but I'm definitely picking some up with my finger. Kind of give that a bit of a scrape there. Take a look at that. Quite creamy, really nice slip, glides across the skin really nicely. It's not greasy. It's definitely, I mean, it's pure oils and fats and waxes. So to say that it's, you know, not at all oily is probably a bit silly, but it really does sink into the skin very quickly, and you can see that I'm not left with this giant oil slick, and it's got quite a nice sort of, not quite dry touch, but quite a nice finish. So it's a really, really lovely body bar. There you go. You just made a beautiful vanilla spice body butter bar. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and do remember to check the description box because that's where I put all the amounts written out in both metric and imperial, and links to this recipe on my blog where you'll find a lot more information about substitutions and links to ingredients and all the equipment I used. See you next time.